Have you ever wondered about those slightly creepy, mysterious snake-worshipping people in Starfield? Well, good news is that at long last, that paid story expansion, Shattered Space, announced back when Starfield was initially released, has dropped for PC and Xbox, bringing a brand new side story surrounding the snake-loving Varun, complete with their own new homeworld, major city, a variety of unique weapons, spacesuits, gear, and improvements to the game sure to entice you to serve the Great Serpent. So join me down the Serpent's path as I curate for you the very best features of this new expansion while doing my best to avoid some story spoilers. If along the way you think I've done a good job and you're ready to serve, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button to show your support. Also, a special thanks to Bethesda for sponsoring this video, which I probably would have done anyway. So if you don't already have it, make sure you check the link down in the description below if you're interested. Of course, the biggest part of this new update is the new side story along with its location. The Shattered Space story happens on the side of the main quest and becomes available only after you've completed the first main quest line, One Small Step, triggered by your first grav jump outside a mission or special encounter. There, you'll receive a distress call and discover a large new space station called the Oracle. From there, you just follow the story and you'll find yourself eventually on the Varun homeworld. If, on the other hand, you're like me and you're starting from a save where you're a good portion through the game already, then all you have to do is do a grav jump and the same thing will happen. The Oracle will appear to you and you'll have an option to start this new story. One important bit though is that, according to Bethesda's own material, you should be at least level 35 in order to take on this challenge, and I think it's a pretty fair recommendation, judging by my own experiences fighting some of the new mobs, which are quite difficult to deal with, especially if you're not high enough level. So make sure you do that first. The new darker story centers around the Varun faction, as I've already alluded to, on their cut-off homeworld of Varun Kai. They're a group of reclusive humans who worship a deity they refer to as the Great Serpent, who will eventually devour the universe. The original game makes a lot of references to them, but you'll probably not have known too much because they're only meant to be mysterious. You'll have probably encountered some of their crazies or zealots, but that's about it. This new expansion then looks to explore their culture and story, involving you as part of an unfolding prophecy. The premise established right at the start of the story is that in order to better understand the serpent that they worship, the Varun have been meddling in technology that they expected to bring them closer, but has instead released an unexpected threat onto the universe. Whether or not you help and how you help is your choice as part of Bethesda's storytelling mechanics, but following the serpent's path reveals some pretty interesting things about Starfield's universe, and I'll leave it at that. Of course, as I've already alluded to, there's also a new planet and city to explore as part of this expansion. It's where pretty much all of the story is going to take place after you exit the Oracle, which is why Bethesda put an extra amount of effort in handcrafting these new locations to be quite a bit more special than some of the other ones you may have already encountered, complete with a variety of points of interest outside of the main city for you to find using the new Rev 8 vehicle that they added back in August if you missed that update. That's a free addition to the game, by the way. It's not exclusive to this expansion, so if you already got the game, you should be able to pick one of these up. The planet then is a bit darker and quite a bit creepier than some of the other locations found throughout the base Starfield universe that you may have visited, a fitting backdrop to the story. That means that there's a bunch of new hostile fauna and vegetation to find across a very alien landscape. Strangely though, no snakes. I haven't found any snakes yet. Then there's the main city of Dazra, a fully realized and unique new location comparable in size to the other major faction cities you'll have found in the base game. I appreciate that they've given it also a very unique architectural identity, a palette with sharp edges and V motifs that reflects a darker Varun culture that you discover along the way. I personally quite like its refined and technologically advanced feeling, which is a far cry from the NASA punk derelict style of other human settlements you'll find across the main factions of the game. So then while they might worship a big snake, it doesn't seem like that stops them from advancing in science. Within its walls then, there's also a variety of side quests and content to discover, as well as some new sellers offering a variety of unique items that you won't find outside of the Varun main city. Personally, I found myself getting sidetracked by these side quests quite a lot, because you tend to run into them quite a lot. I mean, it is a Bethesda game. If you played them before, you'll know exactly what I mean, and often these encounters will give you something in return, like a pretty cool new weapon or set of armor, so they're definitely worth checking out if those are things that you're looking to loot. Speaking of loot, I think it's time we talked about some of the new weapons. A fun and interesting story is good and all, but if you can't blow things up all cool like, well then what's the point? And thankfully then this new update brings in a variety of some pretty cool new weapons to check out, all in the Varun style. In addition to the existing Varun weapons that were already in the base game, there's now a bunch of unique ones that you can find as you go through the story, not only from foes, but also available from sellers. Aside from the melee weapons, they're all energy-based, firing something like death rainbows. So yeah, you kill your enemies with death rainbows. Pretty cool. The new weapons include, but are not limited to, the Quick Strike, a new Varun energy pistol, which has a pretty nice high rate of fire if you're clicking rapidly, a couple of laser rifles like the Long Fang with a very unusual multi-emitter look, alongside a more bog standard looking high-powered Starlash rifle. There's also a variety of heavy weapons like the Penumbra, which fires a massive energy beam that encompasses the enemy when hit, and the interesting looking Inflictor that's become one of my go-tos for how chunky it sounds when you blow people up. Then there's my favorite, if only for the quantity of laser pew-pews it sends out, the Starstorm. It's basically a big rotary energy weapon that fires lots of rainbows at the enemy, and it's not maybe the most powerful thing I have, but undoubtedly it's the most fun. Beyond the energy weapons, there's also a variety of new melee weapons to find, and they don't just include the Varun stuff, unless I've missed that from the first game. The expansion updates the way they also work to improve them a bit, and gives you the ability to modify and upgrade them from workshops to make them a bit more in line with some of the other weapon types you have in the game. And with the way that they've tuned the AI in this update, I imagine that they want you to turn to these weapons a bit more than you used to, given that when you're ambushed, they tend to close the distance quite a lot with you. I still do find that a good blaster at my side is all I need to dispense the foes that get too close to me. There's also some interesting new grenades to craft from the resources that you'll find from some of the entities that you eliminate. They offer a variety of different effects, including some freezing effects or teleportation effects that essentially deletes the enemy if you don't mind losing the loot. The effect matches the other weapons too nicely with a strange energy effect, flaring pretty dramatically when you use them. And when I say strange, I don't mean bad, they're actually very cool looking and satisfying to use. Aside from the weapons, there's also a variety of lootable gear. One of the cooler sets are the Varun-specific armor sets, which come in a couple different flavors depending on which sect you're fighting. They're very different looking from the other factions in the game, having a really futuristic, technological, but strangely alien look to them. Foes you encounter wearing the kit tend to be also a bit more intimidating for it. They just come off as a bit more capable. Aside from armor, there's also a bunch of new suits that you'll find scattered about the locations, like a still suit that looks like a certain other franchise. I'm not sure if this is a tongue-in-cheek nod, but let's just say this, they both worship snake-like creatures, so maybe it's not a mistake at all. This stuff then has become some of my new favorite stuff to wear, even if I've not looted the best versions of them yet. It's also pretty cool that you can equip your companions with this gear, because I've already done this with one of my companions. Now they look like one of the Varun guards. Also, you may have noticed that a lot of the Varun characters have some pretty cool tattoos, and you may be curious whether or not your character can now get them, and the answer is yes. The Varun have their own kind of pseudo version of Enhance that you can find in the city, where you'll be able to add whatever house tattoo that you prefer, including a few others that aren't part of houses. Houses, of course, referring to the noble families of the Varun, which there are a few of. A pretty cool little addition that I'm glad that I didn't overlook, even if it doesn't add anything to gameplay. Those things together, though, may not have made things quite as interesting were it not for the new encounters as part of the expansion. There are a variety of new enemies, from extremists who just want to bring back the Serpent Crusade to spread blood and destruction across the settled systems, to unfortunate souls who've been caught up in what's changed this whole location, to even stranger creatures from somewhere else that pose an even bigger threat. They all add something new and different to the combat style of enemies that you may have already faced in the base game. Mainly, it's how they reposition and close distance with you that's the most challenging, causing you to have to constantly reconsider your position and stay on the move to avoid getting hit by critical damage. It's been a refreshing change from the bog standard Crimson Fleet that I've been used to fighting so far. And aside from all this, there's also been some technical improvements. The update makes some efforts to make the game run a little bit better. To review what happened since last August, there's been a new frame rate target setting, which is great for console users as well as PC users who have mid-range systems, a new prioritize setting to help you prioritize either visuals or performance settings depending on which you like, and a VSync setting to reduce screen tearing if you've been having that issue. I'm a glutton for visuals though, so I usually just max everything out. They also continued to improve the UI, especially with the map system. Not only is there a new local map that's much clearer to use for your surrounding area, but now they have fast travel icons to cut down on travel time if you don't want to just walk everywhere. And as part of a huge quality of life improvement, they've made the ship's cargo accessible anywhere, allowing you to cut down on issues with your inventory overflowing. This doesn't completely solve the issue of running out of space from looting, but, well, maybe that's just a me problem from being a kleptomaniac. It does help a lot though, especially when I want to expand my collection of cool weapons. Overall then, the expansion is a really solid update and addition to the game. It brings some interesting new lore to the Starfield universe, as well as some really cool looking kit to bring back out onto other adventures. I'm not fully through the story yet though, or the side quests even, but I'm sure it's going to contribute to my already over 140 hours of gameplay that I already have into it. So what features are you guys enjoying most if you're already playing it? What's your favorite weapon? Let me know down below, and if you've not got it yet, are you going to try to get it for yourself? Shattered Space is available for Xbox and PC and can be found through the link in the description for about $30 US, depending on your region and tax. And a special thanks again to Bethesda for sponsoring this video. Alright then, I'm going to go back to serving the Great Serpent now, hopefully without too much human sacrifice. See you guys in the next one.